Hello and welcome back to the Vega Baja Real Estate Talk here at the Televisión Vega Baja in Torrevieja. We are back after a long summer break, but we are back with the intention to continue to entertain you and to inform you about real estate topics here in the Vega Baja and about lifestyle here in the Vega Baja. And as we left before, we have always guests in the show, and today I'm joined by two lawyers here in Torrevieja from Abaco Advisors here in Torrevieja, and I'm happy to welcome the lawyer Mónica Guillot.
Good morning.
And I'm also happy to welcome Gemma Sanchez. She is a sworn translator and expert in inheritance tax and last will. Because that's exactly the topic we are going to talk about, last will and inheritance. It's a very important topic. We are talking about buying properties, selling properties, having properties, but the topic of last will and inheritance is really a very, very important topic, as we will see. So I hope you join us after the break, where we will be talking about this very important topic. When you buy a property, you should already think about it, but it is very important that while you have the property, during the years, you think about there might be a case where somebody passes away, and you want to make sure that all the beneficiaries or your spouse afterwards won't have that much problem with becoming the owner of the property. So inheritance is a very, very important topic, because when it comes to the point when somebody passes away, it's such an emotional process. So you want to make sure that everything is sorted. And this program goes just about this, to give you some information so that you already know more about it, because it is a very complex topic. Mónica, you are the lawyer at Abaco Advisors, and inheritance is a very important topic for the non-resident or the resident here in Spain, isn't it?
Yes. Well, usually when we buy a property, we don't think about when we die. Mm-hmm. However, all of us have to pass about it. So it's necessary to think about it and planning in the future, just to take care of your loved ones.
Yeah, and it is, as you said, it is a very emotional process when you buy it. Everybody buys it to enjoy the property, to live in it, and to enjoy the Vega Baja here. But you have to keep in mind that, as you say, we all have to pass away, and what you want to make sure, Gemma, is you want to make sure that everything is in place. So what would you say, what's the first thing when you buy a property, what's the first thing with regard to inheritance, what you should do?
Well, our clients, what they are doing is they buy property, but they also ask about inheritance tax. They want to plan, as Monica said, they prepare the wills, and they make sure they have all the information before they buy. Also, the way they buy, the way they put the property in the name of the family is important before the actual buy takes place.
Yeah. So not to leave it for too long, in particular if you are already probably of an advanced age, but even so, if you're in your 40s, 50s, you're not really thinking about all these kind of things. But what normally do you start with when you advise your client what to do?
Well, we usually advise our clients that when someone passes away, the first thing they should do is calling us, because we will take care of everything. We will deal with everything. For example, sometimes they don't know how to deal in such a difficult moment, because, as you have told before, emotions are quite big in that moment. So we usually recommend them to inform their lawyer and forget about the problem.
Because that's actually what you're doing. You're expert in it. You can take them by the hand, and from start to finish. It's very, very legal process, isn't it? I mean, yes. The purchase of a property is kind of very standardized, so that it's also for if you come from abroad, the process of buying a property is different from maybe back home. But inheritance is something very, very individual, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very specific. In fact, in many countries in Europe, they don't have to deal with an inheritance process. So here in Spain, it's a bit different, and it's important to be guided by a solicitor or a lawyer.
I mean, inheriting a property in the UK is different than in Sweden and Germany and France. But if the property is here in Spain, obviously the Spanish laws apply, doesn't it, Monica?
Well, sometimes it depends, because, for example, if you are a resident here in Spain and you have made a will choosing the law of your own nationality inheritance law will apply when you pass away. So it's important to have a will, because according to the law, your own national law is the one which will be applied. However, if you are resident, the law of your resident is the one that will apply. So for foreigners living here in Spain, it's very, very recommendable to have a Spanish will.
Okay, so if you own property in Spain, you should have a Spanish will. And do you have to do this in Spain, or can you do it in your country? What would you recommend where to do the last will?
Both.
In both. So
you can sign your will here in Spain, or you can sign also the document in your country.
Okay.
The difference would be the way to prepare the documents. Any document issued abroad must be legalized, and normally with an apostille stamp.
Okay.
And also it has to be translated into Spanish.
Yeah.
It must be a sworn translation.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Okay. So every document actually that that you want to be legal here in Spain needs to be legalized, and that's normally what you do. You have to translate it back home, put the process, put the apostille on it, and then it's legal here in Spain.
That's it.
And so, if somebody does not have now a last will, owns a property already, first thing to do is really a last will, isn't it?
Of course.
Yeah.
It can make everything easier and quicker in the future.
Yeah. But if you have probably a last will about your assets back home in your home country, would that also help in case you did not have a last will here in Spain for your Spanish assets?
Yes, if there is not any Spanish will, we will need the will that they have signed abroad.
Okay.
So it's recommendable. If not, we will need a declaratory of heirs.
Right.
So we need to check to confirm in one way or in the other who are the legal beneficiaries.
Yeah. And this last will, we're always talking about an official last will, so it's just signing a piece of paper is not enough. It needs to be passing through a public notary back in your country. Yeah,
it has to meet certain formalities. It doesn't matter if it's signed here in Spain or in your own country. It must be normally signed before a notary public.
And Monica, what would you recommend, so some basics, bullet points wise, what should the last will contain? So what do you have to put into the last will so to make it really
Well, the main important thing in one will is naming the beneficiary of your assets when you pass away. But it's important to informing the future beneficiaries about the assets that they must inherit. Because, for example, if they don't know that there is, for example, a bank account or a life insurance and they are not registered, they don't claim for that, so they can lose that amount of assets.
And you also want to include what law to apply, or what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In the Spanish wills, our clients usually choose their own national law to apply when this will must apply.
So you basically say, I, Mr. or Mrs. So and so, I want this and this my law back home to apply because it's probably more beneficial than the Spanish law, or if the Spanish law is more beneficial to you for your beneficials, you want the Spanish law to apply.
Well, usually they choose their own national law because they are closer to that law.
Okay.
Okay. So, for example, for British people, they are free to choose whoever they want as beneficiaries. Here in Spain, on the contrary, we've got legal portions for some people. So they choose the law of their own nationality just to name whoever they want as beneficiaries.
Okay. And if you want, Gemma, let's say I want all my well, the property mainly, or the bank account, but there can be many, so everything basically that has a value. So you can have all this in the will and say, because very often people just think about the property, but there is.
Yeah, there are more things normally to inherit.
Yeah.
But what we do is we prepare a draft including all my assets, all my rights in Spain, because you never know if you're going to get something else in your lifetime. So it's better to just say, I want all my assets, anything that I have in Spain, to be inherited by a certain person or several people.
Yeah, and obviously this cannot go against like the Spanish law. So you have certain parts go to the spouse or to the partner, and other things go to the children if there are. So
depending on the nationality, that's different. So as Monica said, for British people, Irish, those nationalities with this kind of freedom to decide who has to inherit your estate, it's more advisable for them to have a will in Spain, because they can benefit from that law.
Yeah.
For other nationalities, they have also the obligation by law to leave the estate to certain members of the family, but it's also a different process, so it's advisable to have your Spanish will, definitely.
Okay. Just in case there were no will at all, so somebody from like Sweden or Germany and somebody passes away but there is no will, what would happen, Monica? What would apply?
Well, they would have to apply in their home country for the death certificate with the declarative of heirs. In Sweden, for example, it's the same document in which appears the person who has passed away and his or her legal inheritors.
Yeah.
So we will apply that document to inherit here in Spain.
Okay, so you need to obviously prove when the person died, and you bring this down. If it is not in Spanish, it needs to be translated as well. So
and
again,
apostille too.
So everything has to be translated and apostille. And so if somebody has wife or a husband passes away, but they're also children, what's the Spanish law on this? What does the Spanish law say?
Well, the Spanish law says that the children compulsory has the right to inherit 2/3 of the total amount of assets. Okay, so 1/3 is compulsory in equal shares for all the children, and the other third can be only for one of them or for two. It's like to make their share better, but you can benefit one child from the other.
Yeah.
And you've got one free share to choose whoever you want as legal beneficiary. But 2/3 compulsory are to the children.
Okay. So basically, if you have a good relationship to your children, or well, it really depends on the relationship you have with your children, and if you want part of the property going, or of your assets here in Spain, you want them to go to them, or you just say, well, no, I don't want anything to go to my children. So you really are advised to do this last will and to say where you want your assets to go. So last will is very, very important. So what do you do step by step when you hear about somebody passed away? So a person calls you, is in a very emotional state, obviously. Is there a time frame where somebody should contact you, or just say, well, I'm not in this situation right now, I'd rather wait until I am, and it's probably months and probably years passing by? What's the time frame you are advised to contact you and to take
the law
steps?
says that we've got 6 months to conclude the inheritance process and make the tax declaration. However, it's possible to ask for an extension of that period in case that it is not possible to obtain the necessary documents or there is any problem.
But you have to apply for that, so you have to get permission for that.
Yes, the normal deadline is 6 months.
Okay, 6 months. And so what we talked before about some documents which you already know, which you have to bring to you. Normally, the person has a solicitor already, but just in case there weren't a solicitor, what sort of documents would somebody have to provide?
Well, what we have to prove is the fact of death. So for that, we need the death certificate, obviously, which can be issued in the country of our client or in Spain. The difference would be, again, legalization and translation of documents. And then we need to know the assets. So we need information about property, accounts, or vehicles. And after that, we need to know who is going to inherit. So we need the last will, as you said, or any other document to prove the legal beneficiaries.
Okay.
That's what we need.
Right. Assuming normally everybody has a bank account, also there might be very little money on it or whatever, but all this money is to be inherited. Property. So what sort of documents do you need for of the property?
The deeds.
The title deeds,
Yeah.
as usual.
Deeds.
So the escritura. Okay. And then obviously the beneficials will become owners, which means there is something involved with NIE numbers, passports. Is that right as well?
Of course, they need NIE numbers to be fiscally identified and to prepare the tax declaration.
Yeah.
They need NIE numbers, but that's something that we do for them as well.
Okay.
Normally we work on basis of a power of attorney, which is a document to authorize the solicitor to deal with all the process on behalf of the client. So we include also faculty there to obtain an NIE number in their names. They don't need to even come to Spain if they don't want or they can't come.
But we have to underline that if you are beneficial of an inheritance, if you inherit parts of a property of your father's, for example, you become owner of it. And so there is some benefits, obviously, enjoying it, or being able to, being with all the benefits you have when you're owner of a property, but also some obligations. So what when being owner of a property here, tax-wise and so on. So this person that becomes owner of the property, the beneficial, will be treated here in Spain like according to the law, like a Spaniard or like a resident. Or
yes, like an owner of a property here in Spain. Since that moment, he or she will have to make his or her tax declarations every year and pay, for example, for the property tax, the ABB. So since that moment, he or she will be treated as an owner and will be liable of all taxes involved.
Yeah. And what if the property, there's a mortgage on the property? Because you can inherit a property which is, your fathers didn't have a mortgage on it, but what is if you have a mortgage on the property?
Well, in an inheritance process, you receive as well the assets as the debts. This means that if you are inheriting a property with a mortgage, you will receive the mortgage too. So if your father or mother didn't have a life insurance to cover that mortgage when he or she passes away, the children must continue paying the mortgage. Okay.
So in many cases, well, not in many, but in some cases it could be that there is no life insurance covering the death or the mortgage, or the actual value of the mortgage is higher than the probably the value of the property. So somebody would
Repudiate.
Inherit the property with a higher mortgage on it.
Yeah, or decide not to inherit.
So you can actually decide, as well as back home, to say, well, I'm really not interested in that property.
Of course, you can do that.
And what happens then, Gemma? What happens to the property? If somebody passes away, probably the only owner, leaves it to the children, the high mortgage on it, higher than the value of the property. He says, no, I don't want that property and I don't want the mortgage, of course. What happens to the property?
Well, I understand that the property will be kept by a bank.
So the bank will keep it, try to sell it, so you have to keep all these things in mind, don't you?
Yes, of course. That's why it's important to find out before going through the process, find out which are the assets or the amount of the estate. That's what we do. That's why you need a solicitor also.
Yeah. That's and so it's again, when you buy a property, it's so important that your solicitor already stretches out or underlines it. You should do a last will. Keep in mind that this and this can happen, and so when somebody comes on to you all inform about all that already from the beginning. Great.
Yes.
Is there anything else? I mean, I have a little bit on the list. We talked about most of the documents here, but obviously all the other SUMA, details of the community administrator, all this comes normally with a property. So that's also important documents you need to provide to your solicitor. So that really make it easy for the solicitor as well, and not having to dig too deep into these documents and trying to find where they are.
Yeah. Normally the preparation of your future inheritance includes the last will, but also we are doing that with our clients, preparing a kind of file, including all information as much as possible about the assets, so the children, the family don't have much problem with that in the future.
About the inheritance tax, because very often people say, well, how much is it? Is it a percentage? So how to give we know it's very, very personal. It depends on many things. But can we give the people on the TV back home some idea?
Yes. Well, the inheritance tax is between the 7% and the 34% of the total value of the assets. However, here in the Valencian region, there is an allowance of 100,000 euros for close relatives. This means between spouses or between parents and children, this allowance applies. And in most cases, nowadays, makes that the inheritance tax is zero or near to zero.
Okay. So, and it also depends on, well, how you call it, the grade of inheritance. So whether you are a spouse, whether you're children, whether you're a brother. So because even your brother could inherit the property.
Yes. In that case, inheritance tax payable will be higher because the allowances applicable will be lower. So relationship between the inheritor and the deceased is very important in this matter.
Yeah, but it would be far too much to go into details in this program here, because it's really something the client should sit down with you, and he tells you exactly whom he wants to inherit his property in case of death, and you go through him with all the figures and say roughly about that much.
Yeah, that's very important. In fact, some clients come with other information, and it makes a big difference if they didn't take into consideration certain factors. It can be very different.
And when is the inheritance tax being paid?
After the inheritance process is concluded.
Okay. So if the beneficial, the son says, for example, well, I want the property, it's free of debt probably, I want the property, but I'm not coming down to live in it, so I really want to sell the property. So, but he has to keep in mind that all the inheritance has to be done before taxes being paid.
Yeah. First, they have to deal with the inheritance process. Then you pay the inheritance tax or make the declaration of the tax. Can be zero. And after that, you can sell the property, but you have to pay upfront.
So it roughly for an average property, let's say 100,000 euros. Can we give a rough figure of taxes approximately?
Between family, and if it's a group one, it's a close relative, and if it's here in the community of Valencia, as Monica said, there is an allowance of 100,000. So in that situation, it would be zero.
Okay, it would be zero. And if it goes above 100,000, so 200,000, so it would be...
You have to calculate.
Yes, there are several factors involved because it's necessary to prove who are the beneficiaries, where the property is located, how much is the property or the total assets. So it depends on several factors, and we cannot say a certain amount because every case is different.
Yeah, so it's so individual. That's why I said at the beginning, it's a topic that is, we can give some rough guidelines here, talking about certain things, but it's really very, very important that you talk to your lawyer. And if you don't have a lawyer, I'm pretty sure both Monica and Gemma will be more than happy at Abaco's Advisors in Torrevieja here to help and advise you. Last thing which I'd like to mention is donating, because if you say, well, I'm still alive, I'm very happy, I'm still alive, I don't want my beneficiaries to go through all that, what can you do? There is an alternative to inheritance, isn't there?
Well, nowadays many people is using this way to avoid in the future an inheritance process, maybe because they are sure that they are not going to come again to Spain, or they can be sick, and they want to transfer all the assets to their children before anything happens in a happier process. They go through a donation process, which is a very similar process as an inheritance. So they transfer their assets while they are alive.
So with regards to taxes, what does it mean? Is it cheaper? Is it free? Is there no taxes?
The good thing about donation is that nowadays and in our community, the allowance is exactly the same as in inheritance.
Okay.
So also between parents and children, it's very likely that you have to pay zero tax.
Okay.
So it's most advisable.
So it's actually wiser to do that, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to see a case.
Yeah, case by case.
But
okay.
It is a quicker process than an inheritance because we don't have to collect as much documents, so we don't have to prove any death.
Okay.
So it can be quicker, even easier.
Well, obviously, keeping in mind, if I donate my property now while I'm alive to my children, I'm not the owner anymore.
That's it.
You cannot sell it in the future.
Yeah. So you want to make sure you have your good relationship with your children.
Well, some clients, what they do is they keep the right to use the property, which is called usufructo.
Yeah.
And that way they make sure they guarantee that the property cannot be sold without their consent, of course.
Well, I know it all sounds very confusing, and sometimes it actually is. And in particular for you, because you're not familiar with the Spanish law, Spanish habits and so on, and all the names that are spinning around. But that's why it's so important to talk to your solicitor to really make sure, because they do it every day. They do it. It's just a daily business for them. So really, Monica, what would you say? Okay, somebody's watching this program now back home and says, "Gosh, I don't have a last will. We have not even thought about inheriting or donating. What should be the first step now?"
Well, I would recommend them to call ABACO advisors, and we will inform them about their options. We will study each case in particular.
But first thing to do is contacting your solicitor. They guide you through and talk. In particular also about taxes, because if the property is above 100,000 euros, so there will be taxes for sure. Most probably there will be taxes, and it can be, well, kind of considerable amounts. And study one by one whether donating is the better option, or whether leave it to
for the future.
To the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add at this point, or is it pretty much we covered pretty much everything, or anything which you think which is? What about one thing? What about non-European citizens? There is something which is different to non-European citizens than to European citizens, Monica?
Yes. The allowance that we have mentioned before of 100,000 euros is applicable only for residents in the European Union.
Okay.
This allowance is not applied for non-residents in the European Union. So the central law will apply for non-residents. They will not have the benefits of the regional law. So this allowance won't apply for example, Russians or Americans.
Okay, yeah, Chinese citizens, for example, as well. Well, we don't want to go into details now, but we really coming with the Brexit. We don't know if somebody is still, obviously, every UK citizen is within the European community, but we don't know how this will affect it once probably the UK will leave the European community.
We don't know.
We don't know yet. No.
What it is clear is that the law says that this allowance is applicable for residents in the European Union.
Okay.
Years ago, it was only applicable for Spaniards, for residents here in Spain. However, after a sentence from the European Court, these allowances or the benefits for regional area are applicable for residents in the European Union too. So nowadays, this is the situation, but we don't know how it will be.
Yeah, this is one of many topics related to the Brexit. This is one of them. Nobody knows how this agreement will be reached or what will happen, but it's a matter of fact that Europeans are treated, or Europeans in the community are treated with this respect in a certain way, and non-members of the community in a different way. So we just have to keep this in mind. Thank you ever so much for being here, informing us about this, and it was a pleasure, and it was a very important topic. If you have any questions, just contact Abaco Advisors in Torrevieja, and they will be more than happy to help you. After the break, we have a very beautiful topic, very nice topic, and it's about the lifestyle again, and it's about yoga. So this very trendy topic, trendy, always trendy, but we will talk to a qualified and certified yoga teacher, and she will tell us a little bit about this fascinating activity, yoga. So don't go away, stay with us. We are back right after the break. So here we are again after the break, and as I said before, we are with the topic. It's a very trendy topic at the moment because it seems there is more and more yoga centers popping up, but it's always been a topic. Well, actually, I'm joined by one of the best known yoga teachers in the whole of the Vega Baja area, and I'm joined by Rihanna Joanne McCulloch. Is that right?
Good morning. Yeah, that's right.
Good morning. Yeah, I was just about to say, you're not from the area, are you? You weren't born here.
No, I was born in Scotland, and I came over here when I was 16.
Wow.
Yeah. So then, by 18, I was married, and then in the 30s, mid-30s, I started to go down the journey of yoga.
Okay. So that was just recently then, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, recently, yeah.
So, Rihanna, yoga. Many people hear the word yoga and they're kind of, ooh, that's a strange word. Yeah. So what does yoga actually mean? What is it?
Well, it actually means the union of the mind, the body and the soul, bringing it all together. So what we're actually doing is working with the muscle strength, so you're building up strength in your body, and also the flexibility, but also being able to go within and bringing all the breathing, the postures in together to bring it all as one. That's why everybody says they always feel so much more relaxed afterwards. They feel stretched out. They feel the mind is more relaxed. Everything just feels so much more better. Yes.
So it's when people hear this word yoga, obviously it's not a European or a Western word. It comes from
India when it started. Yes. My journey started with the Kundalini yoga, which did originate from India, and you've maybe heard that there's many different kinds of yoga. The Bikram yoga, where you do the yoga practice at 40 degrees, like in August here in the summer. Or you have the Ashtanga, which is quite an advanced, you do series. So you keep repeating series, and then you add on more series. Once you know the basic series, you add on more. The Kundalini yoga, we work a lot with mantras. I find it's a very complete yoga because we work a lot with the breathing, obviously the yoga postures, it's yoga in movement, and you have the meditation. So, yeah.
But before we go more into details a little bit, I mean, while we are talking, we see some images of you, of your groups and so on, because you do it here in the Vega Baja area, where you do your classes and your groups.
Yeah.
As you said, so where is the difference? Because many people think, well, that's a little bit like stretching out.
Yeah.
But where do you say where is the main difference between doing proper yoga and just stretching?
Well, just stretching. Yoga is all about opening up, whereas you have the beach yoga. I always make that a little bit more fun, and it's hatha, so it's a lot of stretching, holding the postures, but we're not just creating shapes with the body. You're actually opening up and doing nice shoulder openings, working with the backs. A lot of people come to me with back problems, and it's very important to work with your back. You have the spinal discs that are shock absorbers in between each vertebra. So what we do is they love movement, so we give them lots of twists, back bends, forward bends, and we get the back moving. And that's very important for the back. Okay, so on the beach, and we make it a bit of a fun. In the gym, it's more serious stuff, a bit more fast, a bit more furious. And then sometimes with the older people, they prefer a gentle kind of exercise where you just hold the postures between 2 or 3 minutes with just gentle breathing and just try to be present. Try not to go with your thoughts. So there's yoga for every type of person. It's not what you see on Instagram where you see these crazy postures and legs being tied behind the necks.
Yeah.
You know, we're working with muscle strength so we can prevent arthritis and other back problems. It lowers your blood sugar levels. It brings down your blood pressure. People tell me that they sleep better after the yoga practice as well. So it has many benefits.
Yeah. So you said there is. Yoga is not only for the athlete.
No.
It's not only, or probably just not for the athlete, as you say. When we type in Google or we look on the internet and look out for yoga, we see these crazy postures where there's some Indian people probably who do practicing yoga for their life. They have their legs behind their head and things like that. And you say, wow, how do I should go on with that? So
yeah, but these are people that have been practicing for years and years and probably been from quite a young age. Some people are actually born very flexible. So you might have somebody turn up at your class and that's never done yoga before and they have this amazing flexibility and that's fine, it's okay. But you shouldn't be worried about having somebody next to you that has a more advanced practice. It's all about going within and doing your own practice and just going as far as you can go with the postures and with the movement. And the breathing is everything. Because the breathing can just change your state of mind within 3 minutes. Just doing a simple pranayama exercise, which is breathing, and it can just change your total mental state of mind within 3 minutes. That's all it takes. Yeah.
So yoga and meditation, or yoga and breathing goes very well. Meditation is another concept,
together.
but it comes kind of together, doesn't it?
Yes, it comes together. The postures, the asanas, what they do is actually prepare your body to then bring you into that state of meditation. So we do all these postures, especially the Kundalini yoga. We do kriyas, which are sets of exercises. And then what you do is you're actually preparing your body to then, and your mind, for that state of meditation when you get to the meditation. So you're already in a different place from where you were when you arrived at the class. Because we're always looking at the watch, running about, running here, running there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to take a few minutes to go within, listen to your body. And practicing yoga, I find lots of people need to go less to the doctor, less medication. It's a more healthy approach.
And there is yoga for all sorts of levels. So obviously nobody is born as a yogi. Everybody is kind of getting onto it slowly but surely. But you can start yoga at any age.
You can start at any age. I've had children as young as 3 in my class, and they've been able to follow me. We make it more fun, obviously, and we do lots of animals and jumping about. And then I've had people as old as 85 in my class, and they can keep up with the pace of the class, really. So it's amazing. You know, it's not just like what you see on Instagram or what you see in these yoga journals, you know, all these postures.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. Yoga is for everybody.
And in particular, as you said before, there's people coming onto you, they have probably some back problems, or the knees or legs or whatever, or neck, and so that really means there is a blockage anyway, and you can, with yoga, kind of release this blockage.
Yeah, you can release it. You can release the energy, yes. Gradually, you just have to keep up the practice and be constant. Some people, the bad thing that some people do is when they start to feel better, automatically think, oh, I'm better now, I'll stop coming and going to my yoga class.
Yeah.
And then it all comes back. It's so important to keep your body moving into old age. So you keep that flexibility, you build up that muscle strength and keep everything strong. So even like building up your muscle strength, it'll actually protect you if you have a fall. Like, I mean, when women start to go through the menopause and osteoporosis, then you have that problem with the bones. So the yoga really actually helps with keeping your bones nice and healthy as well. So you're unlikely to break anything if you do have a fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is, you're not running around, do you, with yoga? You just are at one place, so it's not a dynamic sport, which some people will say, well, I can't run anymore, so I can't do any activities. Well, yoga might just be the right thing then for you.
Yeah, definitely, because as I've said before, there's all different kinds of yoga. If you want something fast, like a vinyasa, which is a lot of up and down, and you need good strong wrists, good arms, good for the core, but there's a bit of everything out there for everybody. Yeah, definitely.
And nowadays, there's, I mean, the jobs we all have, you know, is a lot of sitting at desks, looking into a screen all day.
Yeah.
So the posture is a kind of very stiff during the day. Yeah. So yoga is very good also for like younger people who have...
Younger and older people, but I do have a lot of people that come from by sitting in desks. And they find they can't bend over and touch their toes, but within a couple of months they can say, oh, I can touch my toes now. They get so excited. And it's just through those gentle exercises and breathing into the exercise and just allow the body to give, just allow the body to open. It will open, it will give, but you have to be patient with your time. Problem is we all want everything now. We all want to be super yogis when we go on the mat within a couple of days. We want to be doing all these amazing back bends and all these crazy things, and you just have to be patient with your body and listen to your body.
And just join one of your classes, just go there and just see what sort of people there are, just to get this entrance barrier, your own entrance barrier a bit down, and say, well, they look like me, or if they can do it, I can do it. Just give yourself a chance and to get on. But
and you'll find you're with like-minded people. You start to change, your attitude will change towards, you want to be more healthy, so you're doing more healthy activities for your body. Then you'll want to maybe go into more healthy attitude of eat more healthy as well. So everything starts to change. Maybe want to do some more meditation, be at home. A lot of the things that I actually show in my class, you can actually do in the house. So I often tell them, go home and try this and do this. And there's modifications for everybody. So if you've had operations on your knees or on your feet or on your back, there's everything. There's modifications for every posture.
So even somebody had an accident or whatever, and they're kind of recovering to rehabilitation, they should carry on with doing that, but they could also still come along and do yoga.
Always under the doctor's advice. Once they've been given the go-ahead, a lot of the doctors are recommending nowadays go to yoga. A lot of my students have come from the actual doctors.
Oh, that's good. So give yourself a chance, go to see Rihanna, and don't look too much at your neighbor. He might do it for 2, 5 or 6 years already, so don't try to do what he or she does. Try to get onto your own limits.
On your mat is your own personal experience, and you just have to be aware of how you are advancing in your practice. It doesn't matter what the other person is doing on the other side of the mat. I often see other people looking and then trying furiously to do the same, and it's just not worth it. That's when you get injuries. So it's very important to listen to your own body, not to go too far too soon.
And that's when many people leave it already. So they start, look at the others, how well they are doing. I can't do it, I'm leaving, it's not for me. But it's not that.
It's not that. It's not that.
So, Rihanna, where can people find you? So how can people get onto you, or just starting with yoga? You're all over the place. You do it, you said you do it on the beach?
We do on the beach a lot in the summer, and I'm trying to do some loose classes during the winter because we're so lucky at this area. We have good weather 95% of the time of the year, so we can get down on the beach. I don't go down to the beach more often because I've got so many different classes, but I'm in various gyms around the area and a few of the yoga studios. Yes, so whatever class, or a yoga teacher near you, find out, check them out, make sure, see what kind of classes they do, go onto Google, see what kind of class they teach, and if it's the kind of class that pulls you in, if it's what you're looking for. Because there is a yoga class out there for everybody. Everybody.
Well, if it's done for hundreds and thousands of years, it can't be a bad thing. And it's been developed into so many different kind of types of yoga. There is meditative yoga, very dynamic yoga, very, very static yoga, so there's all sorts of yogas. And Rihanna is very specializing in Kundalini yoga, but there's also some
Hatha. I do Hatha as well.
You do Hatha as well.
Yes. So
And there is another type coming up now, or you're kind of qualifying, or what is that?
I'm almost there. In
Okay.
October, I should be a fully qualified yin yoga teacher. So, I'm doing that just now, and that is a very beautiful practice because the postures actually bring you into a state of meditation. The hardest part sometimes is just being in the pose and not actually moving, just being there and trying to remain present. But they're lovely long stretches, so you can actually feel the first minute you're sort of fighting with the body to go into that maybe full forward bend, but we're also using bolsters to make everything as easy as possible. And then you'll actually start to feel the body giving way, and you'll be able to go deeper into your full forward bend, but because you're given the chance and the time to do it. So we're there for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. It might sound very daunting, but it's not, honest. You will feel the body open. You will feel everything open. You'll feel the mind change, everything. Yeah. Some people say when they come out of the yin yoga class that it's like they feel as if they're floating.
Just coming back to this, because it's a big group of people, just desk work. So what would you reckon, just a quick exercise if somebody says, oh God, I'm sitting all day on the desk, my neck is, hurting and so what would you say, just a quick exercise which you could release?
Neck exercises or back exercises or something just to release and let go. Well, you could have your hands on your shoulders, keeping the arms parallel to the ground, and just do a few spinal twists. We use this a lot in the Kundalini yoga. When we turn to the left, we inhale, and then we exhale when we turn to the right. Or you can actually do spinal flexes, just releasing your hands onto your knees. This is very good for your back. And then you would just inhale as you bring the chest forward and out, and then exhale as you go back, rounding your back. And just a few spinal flexes will get everything moving. People with anxiety or people that's often waking up during the night and can't go back to sleep, I often tell them to do a pranayama exercise, which is a breathing exercise. And then just get them to have that left hand in Gya Mudra, take the right thumb, cover the right nostril, and then just breathe long and deep through the left nostril for 3 minutes. Nice long and exhale breaths. Okay, so you inhale, you fill the lungs with air, then you exhale and you release the lungs.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 minutes, and you should be able to feel that change. It just relaxes the whole body.
Okay. You see that? Easy. This is a starter. This might be your way to start with yoga. Rihanna, where can people find you again? How can they get in contact with you?
On Facebook, Rihanna Joanne McCulloch. I know it's a bit of a difficult name to find, but yeah.
Well, we all have Facebook, so we are on Facebook. You've seen the name on the screen down there. Just type in Rihanna Joanne McCulloch.
Yes.
And you will find her and you get in contact with her. Ask her where she does it, because she does it from Monday through to Sunday, probably, or weekends sometimes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you ever so much for being here. It's always a pleasure having people like you on the show that just do something good, do good for other people, and help other people to have a better life. And I really appreciate you being here. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you for having me here. I hope it's encouraged some of the viewers to go out and find a yoga class near them and start moving the body. Yeah.
That's it.
It's never too late.
It's for the well-being. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We are finished for today. That was our first episode after the summer break. Thank you again for being back, watching us, learning from us, and being entertained by us. We will be back next week, as always, every week now until about Christmas, and with real estate topics, everything related to buying, selling, and owning property. We've had the interesting topic, inheritance tax and last wills today. In our expert talk, we had Rihanna here today for the yoga and for the lifestyle part of the program, and that's how we're going to continue. So thank you very much again. Have a pleasant week, and we see each other next week again. Thank you, and bye for now.